Alfonso Cajero, A Journey into Finance History. Chapter 93, Global Shifts in Trade Policies. In the early 21st century, global trade was a well-oiled machine, characterized by complex supply chains, free trade agreements, and multinational corporations seamlessly moving goods across borders. The world economy thrived on interconnectivity, and trade policies were largely designed to promote liberalization and globalization. However, the 2020s marked the beginning of a profound shift in these policies, driven by a confluence of geopolitical, economic, and technological factors. The decade opened with the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, which had exposed the vulnerabilities of global supply chains. The initial shockwaves of the pandemic caused significant disruptions in production and logistics, leading to shortages of essential goods and raw materials. Countries began to reassess their dependence on foreign suppliers and the risks associated with just-in-time inventory systems. This introspection led to a growing emphasis on supply chain resilience and national self-sufficiency. Amid these tensions, technology emerged as both a driver and a disruptor of trade policies. The rapid advancement of digital technologies, automation, and artificial intelligence created new opportunities for economic growth and competitiveness. However, it also raised concerns about job displacement, data privacy, and cybersecurity. Governments faced the dual challenge of fostering innovation while ensuring that the benefits of technological progress were equitably distributed. The European Union, a long-standing advocate of free trade and multilateralism, found itself at a crossroads. Brexit, the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the EU, posed significant challenges to the region's trade policy. The EU had to negotiate new trade agreements with the UK and recalibrate its trade strategy to maintain cohesion among its member states. Additionally, the EU sought to assert its influence on the global stage by promoting sustainable trade practices and addressing climate change through its Green Deal. In developing economies, the need for economic diversification and industrialization drove a reevaluation of trade policies. Countries in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia sought to reduce their dependence on commodity exports and move up the value chain. This required investments in infrastructure, education, and technology, as well as the creation of favorable business environments to attract foreign direct investment. The global trade landscape in the early 2020s was thus marked by a mix of protectionism and liberalization, cooperation and competition. Nations were grappling with the need to balance domestic interests with international commitments, and the outcomes of these deliberations would shape the future of global trade for years to come. As the world navigated the complexities of the 2020s, a notable shift towards regionalism began to take shape. Countries increasingly turned to regional trade agreements, RTAs, as a means of enhancing economic cooperation and mitigating the uncertainties of global trade. These agreements, often involving neighboring countries with shared economic and strategic interests, aim to create more stable and predictable trade environments. One of the most significant regional trade agreements of the decade was the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. Initially born out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, from which the United States withdrew in 2017, the CPTPP brought together 11 countries from the Asia-Pacific region, including Japan, Australia, and Canada. The agreement aimed to reduce tariffs, enhance market access, and promote regulatory harmonization among its members. It also included provisions on labor rights, environmental protection, and intellectual property, setting a high standard for trade agreements. In North America, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. The USMCA sought to modernize trade relations between the three countries, addressing issues such as digital trade, labor standards, and environmental protection. The agreement also included provisions to strengthen intellectual property rights and promote fair competition, reflecting the evolving economic landscape of the region. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, represented a bold initiative to foster economic integration across the African continent. Launched in 2021, the AFCFTA aimed to create a single market for goods and services, facilitating intra-African trade and investment. By reducing trade barriers and harmonizing regulations, the AFCFTA sought to boost economic growth, create jobs, and reduce poverty in member countries. The agreement was seen as a critical step towards realizing the vision of a prosperous and united Africa. In Europe, the EU continued to deepen its economic integration while also seeking new trade partnerships. The EU-Japan Economic Partnership Agreement, which entered into force in 2019, exemplified the bloc's commitment to forging strategic alliances. This agreement eliminated most tariffs between the EU and Japan, facilitated market access, and strengthened cooperation in areas such as data protection, sustainable development, and labor standards. The shift towards regionalism was driven by several factors. First, regional trade agreements provided a way to navigate the complexities of global trade in a more controlled and predictable manner. By focusing on regional partnerships, countries could leverage geographic proximity and shared interest to create more resilient and integrated economic zones. Second, regionalism offered a platform for addressing issues that were difficult to tackle at the global level, such as labor rights, environmental standards, and digital trade. However, the rise of regionalism also posed challenges. The proliferation of RTAs led to a complex web of overlapping agreements, creating a spaghetti bowl of trade rules and regulations. This complexity increased the administrative burden on businesses and governments, potentially hindering trade rather than facilitating it. Additionally, the emphasis on regionalism risked fragmenting the global trading system, reducing the influence of multilateral institutions such as the World Trade Organization, WTO. Despite these challenges, regional trade agreements played a crucial role in shaping the global trade landscape of the 2020s. They provided a framework for countries to collaborate on issues of mutual interest, promote economic growth, and enhance resilience in the face of global uncertainties. As the decade progressed, the success of these regional initiatives would depend on the ability of countries to navigate the complexities of regionalism while maintaining a commitment to the principles of open and inclusive trade. The 2020s witnessed a rapid acceleration in digital trade, transforming how goods and services were exchanged globally. The proliferation of e-commerce platforms, digital payment systems, and advanced logistics networks enabled businesses of all sizes to reach customers across borders with unprecedented ease. This digital revolution brought both opportunities and challenges, prompting governments to adapt their trade policies to the new realities of the digital economy. E-commerce became a major driver of global trade, with platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, and Shopify facilitating cross-border transactions. Small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, benefited significantly from these platforms, gaining access to international markets that were previously out of reach. The rise of digital marketplaces democratized trade, allowing businesses to compete on a global scale without the need for substantial physical infrastructure. However, the rapid growth of digital trade also highlighted several regulatory challenges. Data privacy and security became paramount concerns, as the exchange of personal and financial information across borders increased the risk of cyber attacks and data breaches. Governments had to strike a balance between promoting digital trade and protecting the privacy and security of their citizens. The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, in the European Union set a high standard for data protection, influencing regulations in other regions.